Hey fellow astronomers, I just thought I would give a new update on the progress of the Byers mount here. Pretty much I've gotten um, everything all nice and cleaned up. I've actually even replaced all the stainless steel bolts with all new stuff. Really cleaned up everything there. Finished the front mounting plate. If you remember, that just had kind of an old connector on there, so I put in a power switch. Also ran a USB to the OnStep out front, and then this will be for the hand controller there, so that'll all be out front, which is quite nice. I've pretty much got the inside done. This was, I thought, going to be really easy and turned out to be a fair bit of work here. So I've replaced the gear with a 100 tooth pulley to a 20 tooth reduction, NEMA 23 motor for PEC correction. I've put just a little optical pickup sensor there, and then I 3D printed a wheel, and that was the trick actually on that was the simple fact that you can't just slide the shaft in here. It actually has to the reason there's these holes on the side here, these plates, is this shaft actually comes in and pokes through and then slides back. So this actually had to slide back and forth. But I really like that wheel design. I think that is going to work really, really nicely. And then coming from the front, obviously we just have power, the USB, and then the hand controller. So I think that's almost ready to rock and roll. Cleaned up everything, obviously polished up everything all nice and shiny, repacked all the bearings and everything. The declination was a bit of an issue. So a couple things here. I did 3D print, show here, cover that's going to go on here for the deck with the motor off the side. But the problem with the deck is I looked at it, and this was the original deck worm. Sorry, there's another bracket that was over here, but it had bushings on it, and you know, there was just a little bit of slop in there, and the fact that it had bushings, I was just going, no, that's not happening. So I took it apart and I machined out, and I ordered up on online and got some ball bearings and put some ball bearings in it. And I think that would have been a major, vast improvement, but I don't know. That bearing and this mount, it just didn't feel right. So I went up to a full-size bearing. The problem there was that bearing, this bearing is actually bigger than the diameter here, which may be one of the reasons they didn't originally put these in. And so when you put that on, the bearing would actually stick out past here, and on top of that, with the worm gear in there, with the bearing shoved all the way up against it, it would actually be in the radius of curvature of the main gear. So literally I had to machine up a full new little mount for it, which was also, I'm not a super machinist here, but it was a really kind of a fun project, but challenging for me anyway. But the bearings fit in really, really nicely. Then I polished the shaft with just some 3000 grit, well, 1000 and 3000 grit sandpaper to just polish that up so that slides really nicely. And that was another issue with the brass bearings. If there was any slop, there was no adjustment in that. Certainly I could have put a small little washer or something in there, and then or machined off some of the face of here, but there was no real adjustment, so I didn't like that at all. So what I did was I basically then mounted a plate on the end, which will have don't see it sitting here, but in a sense, you put a ball bearing on the end of the shaft here, so this slides in and out. So there will be a ball bearing on the end of that shaft, and then a set screw that goes through here, so that will then adjust the slack. So you'll be able to, or I'll be able to tension it up so that this comes tight up against there, and I can adjust that then on the mount real time, which is going to be really nice. Another issue I didn't like about this plate was that it actually mounted in these screws from above. So in other words, there were two really actually kind of small, and it was a regular screwdriver set screw to then adjust the worm on the bottom, and I didn't like that at all. So what I'm going to actually do is tap holes on this side, because once I put the main plate on top of here, you can't access that, or I'd have to cut holes in that. But I'd rather be able to get to it this way anyway, so I'm going to actually tap some holes on this side and then put bolts in from this side so I can adjust that worm gear positioning from this side. So that's where it's at right now. Yeah, what a mess, huh? The OnStep controller is also built. That's pretty much all up and functioning. I got a Wi-Fi antenna and whatnot for it. I've got Pac-Man installed as my boot up. There we go, we're ready to rock and roll. So yeah, it's getting there, one step at a time.